Your Majesty at your service. Welcome to Fair Queen Talks. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of my podcast, Continuing a Legacy.
Continuing a Legacy episode featuring Shani Gabbidon from IUVO Skincare. Shani is a creative manager and will be speaking to us about her business, but also on how she's continuing to build a legacy. I am glad to introduce you to Shani. So, hello, Shani.
Hello, Tatiana. Hello, everybody listening today. How are you?
Good. I am, technology is a thing, but I'm so happy that it's worked out that we're able to speak and not just speak between ourselves, but with everyone involved. So I'm very glad for you to be on the episode today.
Thank you for having me. No, it's amazing that we've got there. We're here now.
Yes, we're definitely here now. And today I want to talk all about building and continuing a legacy. And I'm so glad to have you here. So for those that don't know you, or maybe already have heard of you, but want to learn a bit more. So could you just introduce yourself, your name, your role in IUVO, and your thoughts on what legacy means to you?
Of course. So my name is Shani Gabbidon. I am the creative manager of IUVO Skincare, which is a natural and organic vegan certified skincare company. Legacy to me, really, if you asked me 5 years ago, I would just say somebody's passed away and somebody else is continuing on in what that first initial person is doing without any real, understanding of the word and the actual intention. But having gone through that process, I think legacy is a major inspiration. It's a light of hope, not just for yourself, but for others. And continuing on in a legacy is something really inspiring and inspirational to journey through.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'm sure you'll unpack what you just said throughout this conversation. So if you could just take us back a few years to talk about the birth of IUVO, how the business started, the meaning of the name, and just generally the journey of this amazing company and legacy that you've been able to continue to build.
Gladly. So IUVO means to aid, assist, and gratify in Latin. And that at the time of my late mother's choosing of the name, I had no idea why she went for that. I thought, well, why not our family name? Why not something culturally appropriate that links back to us? But IUVO, it's what we want to achieve for the company. It's what we've been doing for the last number of years. So we're in our 9th year of trading. And way back in 2012, my late mother started the company and was inspired by my father to start the company when she was going through her cancer treatment. So she originally had breast cancer. She needed some natural hydration for her skin where she was going through the radiotherapy and the chemotherapy. Things like that just weren't readily available in the stores. So she decided to take a natural nut seed butter and make it into a cream that she could use for everyday use. That really helped her in her skin. So she felt nourished. It changed her appearance, helped her with her discoloration, and she wanted to share that with the world. So my father inspired her and said, look, encouraged her to go out and say, yes, let's do this. She went and got it manufactured. That one product then became the birth of IUVO. It's the inspiration. It's our hero products, our eco-cert certified face and body butter cream.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what started it. In a nutshell.
That's absolutely amazing. And sometimes what you always hear about great businesses that get developed is you solve a problem, and she solved a problem that she was experiencing, but realized that she's not the only one experiencing it. And sharing that gift, that knowledge with others is so impactful because so many people clearly are benefiting from it. So thank you to her, and just thank you for that encouragement to share a good practice with others. So I think the birth of your company is absolutely amazing. So you're welcome. So family-owned businesses start with one family member, which is your mother in this case, creating something and desiring that it can create generational wealth for their families, but also to impact positively the lives of others. With this in mind, what was your journey of being involved in your family business, and at what point did it align with your own goals?
Okay. So originally, like you said, it was my mother, and my father quickly got straight involved as soon as the labor came in. So it started off with the cream, and then we go to markets, and well, she'd go to markets, and then people would ask, oh, do you sell soap? And so as soon as more products came into the line, my father, he's always been a chef, so his mindset was always, yeah, this is the process, this is how to achieve this goal. So then they did that together. But myself, I've always been involved from a distance. So initially doing posters, pop-up banners, leaflets, just something on the side. And then, one day my mom said, yeah, we need a website. So people keep asking us about where to buy this once they've run out. And we can't travel from Birmingham, to Scotland, so drop it off. So we need a website now. We need something. So I became more and more involved in the business from a technical side, I'd say. But it all kind of changed when my mother got cancer again. So originally in 2012, she had a mastectomy and she was good. It kind of just, we were like, great, give thanks. That process is something that she's journeyed through. But in 2018, a cancer returned. So we kind of knew as a family, and we all had a sit down, that things would progressively get worse over the doctors said 6 months. So we kind of sat down and thought, well, what are we going to do? You talk about generational wealth. How are we going to continue this without, putting pressure on everyone, And did we want to do that? That was also a big question, because it could have just been my mother and father taking that as their job, as their work. And, we made that decision, and I became more involved in 2018. I'm a qualified architect. So at the time, sorry, we should celebrate that. Qualified architect. Yes, that's it. So for me, working in architecture, I found that it was very challenging to do both, work in the practice and also help and assist in, going to events on the weekends, doing more in terms of being available to do more technical designs, do more social media, so that my parents had a presence on social media and people knew that they were there, encourage them to market and doing a lot more marketing in that side of things naturally. So from, I think, 2018, it was always in the back of my head that I wanted to go part-time with architecture. And it took me a number of years to actually initiate it. But COVID happened, and I think that played a big role in making me make those decisions, really. So in 2020, a lot happened. Even from 2019, I split up with my partner of 5 years, and it was pretty much like a divorce in that kind of sense, because we had a house together. So there's a lot of stress with that.
Definitely.
Big. So for me, getting through that process, then that kind of all came to an end in January. I finally got ownership of the house. And then we realized that mum wasn't really herself. Her cancer at that time had spread to her brain, and she couldn't really take as much involvement in the business as she wanted to. My father always reminds me of this story. Christmas, they'd always do Christmas market in Oxford, and as soon as that one had finished, 23rd of December, they'd rush out, hit
Mm.
the shop up, go and do the shopping, and, you know, prepare for Christmas, you know, traditional Jamaican, but pescatarian, vegan food. And it would always be like, you know, everything full spread. But my mom, she was in Asda at the time, and they were doing the shop, and my mom turned around to my father and said, Ian, I don't feel well, you know.
Mm.
And when she said that, she looked at my father. My father just knew, like, wow, okay, we need to go. Packed up, quick, got to the till, got home, and pretty much from that point on, he'd said she sat down and she pretty much never got up again, you know, in that kind of respect. She was never herself. Her
Mm.
energy dropped. So from January of 2020, we knew that there was now a physical presence needed in the business.
Yeah.
So I'd do a lot more of the events. I'd come and assist a lot more. And when COVID hit and things with my mum started to get worse, I went in and got compassionate leave.
Yeah.
And spent that month, the 1st of June, went very quickly. It was a specific month, and my mum passed away on the 1st of July, you know. And looking back, she always said to me, she said, listen, don't take compassionate leave, because compassionate leave will lead to furlough will lead to redundancy. And she's always been a smart woman, so smart, because that's exactly what happened. You know, a week after my mum had passed away and we're planning the funeral, because my father he didn't have the headspace for it. So I was
Yeah.
taking on, you know, as you would. And I got this phone call, and I was made redundant a week after my mum passed away. And I had to switch my brain to, look, are you going to pay your bills, or are you going to continue? And at the time, I needed to find another job. So I found another job. It was all the way up in the Lake District. So it was so far. And it was good for a temporary moment. And that kind of spearheaded the start of becoming full-time in IUVO, because it was difficult. The commute was difficult. The work, I was so far away from Birmingham. My family needed me. They needed my support in the business. They were struggling, and I lasted 9 months. I said, listen, I can't do this. I've got to take on a new venture. And that was where we sat down, my father, myself, and my sister. We sat down and said, look, how are we going to make this work financially? Obviously, I'm not going to be on the big salary that I was, you know.
Yes. Miss Architect.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, we need to make something work here. And so we discussed the way to make that work. And I think that's where it all aligns, because I knew that my role in architecture, I can always go back to that. I'm still qualified. I'm still very passionate about the architecture world. But family comes first. And when you see your family struggling, you know you need to step up and assist where you can, you know?
Yes, no, definitely. And thank you for sharing that. There's so many things that you spoke to, and the one thing I definitely got out of it in terms of how your involvement aligned at a time. It's almost like everything that was happening in your life was pushing you to this direction that you weren't necessarily ready to take. But sometimes things happen so that, you know, you do that next step. I think being part of this business has always been something that you're going to do at some point. But your life allowed you, it almost gave you the permission of you can go for this now. So it's a very beautiful thing. But as part of that, I know that you're not the only sibling in your family. Can you share with us, like, what some conversations were critical to the success of your family business? For example, those conversations of, do you want to be part of it? What skills and experience from your individual careers can you bring in? Like you said, your father was a chef. So what skills could the different siblings bring into the business? And how do you ultimately separate the family? Like you said, family, it comes first. And you were going through grief at this time. So how do you separate family from business? the dynamics of it, finances, etc. So how did you guys deal with this?
Ah, it's a very difficult one.
Yes.
Because, everybody says, look, don't work with your family, never do it.
Mm.
But my family have always had businesses, and they've had an entrepreneurial spirit, especially my father. So I've worked with my father on a number of occasions, and we're very much similar, boneheaded people sometimes. But it's that level of respect and understanding for, look, somebody is older than me, wiser than me. They have that knowledge. So sometimes you just need to be quiet and just understand that this is the way. This is the way, and you'll understand sure enough. But in terms of actually being part of the business and, those crucial conversations, for myself, I'm the eldest. So I have two other siblings, two sisters. And for me, I had that conversation. It was very clear about what my intentions were. I need to be able to pay my bills, but I also need to contribute to the company. And if that can happen, then this is how things can run, And that was for me a kind of a simple-ish kind of exercise. With my other two sisters, so one of my sisters, my youngest, she lives with my father. And my other sibling, she is also in Birmingham, but very much clear about having her own career outside of the business.
Yeah.
Now, she's always supported us, always wants us to, excel as IUVO. She's very much into the skincare world as well. She touches on a lot of Korean skincare, so she's in that world. Both they're both in their 20s, so they're very much aware of how your skin works and what works for you and what doesn't. So there's always been that knowledge. And I think for my middle sister, she's always wanted to empower us to research more and have a deeper understanding. So she'll always pass on articles, but she's never wanted to be a part of the business in that terms of she has her own goals and has her own dreams. So I respect that. From my father's point of view, I think as any father would, there's always that, in the back of your mind, well, this would be a wonderful idea,
Yes.
if all my siblings could align and have that happy IUVO business ethic. So, I mean, there's never a never, I'd say, but we don't know what the future holds for my middle sibling. But for myself and my younger sister specifically, there was a lot of personal issues that she had to go through for herself. And I feel that if it wasn't for the business and if it wasn't for my mom and my father at the time pushing her and guiding her to have a career in the business, then I don't know where she would be right now. So I'm certainly, it's something that she would need to speak for herself. But as the eldest, the conversation was always easier for me because a lot of people will say, well, the eldest always has the most respects from their parents because they've seen a lot, they understand, they're older, they're wiser, and then their siblings. So for me it was always but sometimes parents will turn around and say, yo, you coming with me to the music, come on. He's like, no, I don't want to.
No, I hear that loud and clear. And what I like about your answer is that these conversations will be had whether you want to be involved in the business or not. But what's most important and what is exemplified in your family is that boundaries are respected and individuality is still valued, because it's not an expectation of you're going to be in here, but even if you're not, you can still contribute. So your level of contribution doesn't have to be at the forefront, but there's different ways of contributing to the family business, even if it's just being supportive, critical ear, or sending, these articles that you've shared. So thanks for that. I think this is really good for other people who are, creating business and thinking, how how do I involve the rest of my family? But involvement can look different for different people and at different stages of their life, to be inclusive of that. So as you've shared, IUVO started with your late mother and is now managed by the rest of your family, those who are involved in different ways. How do you scale up and build on her legacy, or how have you done that, whilst ensuring that the ethos and the reason why the company started in the first place remains true to her initial vision?
Yes, yes. Very, very good question. We have a board, we have like a whiteboard which literally puts on IUVO, aid, assist, and gratify. And we ask ourselves in each conversation or big move, does this help aid, assist, and gratify our customers? Does this aid us? We have to have a set of principles that we kind of question ourselves, because we are the ones who are held accountable, like irrespective of mom, because obviously, yes, the vision and the legacy has always been about her, but this is something that's going to grow through us and onto other generations. And we need to make sure that that vision stays true to the cause, not just to a person, because, mom, as much as she is the root of the business, when my father came into it, his input also shaped the business as well. So the principles that we have, we kind of remind ourselves. And we had this situation before. We had an investor who really angel investor wanted to plug in some money to us, and we were like, yeah, this sounds great. But when you get into the crux of it, is that what you want? Do you want this family business to now not be a family business? And do you want somebody else whispering in your ear about scaling up the business? So we've chosen to so-called do it alone, but we know that there are organizations out there. So myself in particular, I'm thankful that I've been able to be selected for a couple of different programs that's going to help us scale up and level up our business as a whole. So it is all about learning as well. But specifically marketing, we're doing that ourselves. Yes, we get help and we're learning from professionals, but we're keeping it in-house pretty much. So in terms of scaling the business, it's always been a slow and steady approach. So we've always gradually built. We've never put more into the business that we can afford.
Yeah.
And I think that way you have more stable foundations, much more stable foundations. There was a conversation that I was having with some other founders yesterday, and they wanted to, it was a talk about financing and forecasting. And a few of the questions came about lending and borrowing, and is it wise to borrow and have this money sitting on there, in your bank and just, earning interest of it if you don't need to use it? And the professionals were obviously saying no, but having this knowledge and experience to kind of talk to a number of people, I definitely think being able to scale your business is fundamental, and it relies on you having a good community around you, because you can bounce off ideas. Basically, you can always talk to other people and get the latest. Because back in the day, in my parents' day, like they just probably did trial and error. I don't know. They did something, it didn't work, so they do something else. But these days for us, we have a lot of things that are tried and tested, and methods and protocols. So scaling doesn't have to be as scary as, oh my gosh, I'm going to put £1,000 into this, and if it doesn't work, I'm £1,000 less off, and I can't pay this bill for the, it's a lot easier to do when you've got a plan and you've got your principles and your vision clearly aligned, I think.
Yeah. No, that's very beautiful. I liked how you acknowledged that, yes, your mother was the root, but all of you shape the business. And ultimately it's about the principles that you have. And I am very I find having principles and values as a person is important, but also as a brand. And if you always can go back to that, and that's why your brand name is such a special name, because your principles are embedded into that. So anything that you do, does it exemplify those principles that you have? And it's just great to see that you, whatever your decision you've made, you always go back to those principles, and that's allowed you to go slow and steady and find different ways of scaling up, but still going up gradually at some points. And it's very commendable, because it's easy to be a great smaller brand to begin with, and then you get scooped by this large company, or scooped by an angel investor, and it changes the narrative and the sentiment of the brand. So keeping that sense of integrity to your name is such a beautiful thing. So earlier you spoke about what your thoughts were on legacy. So my question to you now is, how does it feel to be working on the legacy of your family and the legacy that you're building as you're scaling the business up?
True, true. It's emotional. Very emotional. I think one of the most difficult parts of this whole journey has been after my mum passed away, and because nobody knew that she had cancer. She was a very proud woman. It was turning up to those events and those customers asking about her, and, oh, how's your mom doing? How's she? Oh, I haven't seen her in a while. She at another event, completely unaware of anything. And me having to turn around and say, I'm really sorry, but she's passed away. And their emotion, and then my emotion, I'm very in tune with people. So I feel their shock, I feel their pain, I feel them connecting to something else that they've experienced in their life, another person passing, for example. And I think that's been the main feeling when it comes to physically working. Now I feel a lot different. I think it's more uplifting. You go to work, it's inspiring. People say, oh my gosh, how on earth do you wake up at 4:30 in the morning and travel from Hertfordshire to go to Glasgow? I say, listen, when I get to Glasgow, I meet those Scottish people and I share the story, and I'm proud to share the story, and it's exciting. I don't have to I don't have to, be worried about, creating an impression or anything. But I think that's just inspiring, it's just really inspiring for me.
Wow. As you were sharing that, having to relive that through the business, even, it was quiet. It's incredible how you were able to keep your poise, but also stay honest. And I think your customers definitely appreciate it. So thanks for sharing that. It was emotional, but your relationship with it now, and just your stage of grief is different to when you were working through as everything was happening. So thanks for that, and just for your resilience during that time. So one of my last questions for you today is, what is next for IUVO?
Big things.
Oh, big things.
2024. Yeah. 2024 is gonna be fire. There are so many things that we're working on, from the Black Business Show. We've got a pitch on, and it's a competition that we're hoping to win, so that we can shape the narrative and understand why GPs and practitioners don't feel comfortable to prescribe natural and organic products as their number one, and why they keep prescribing ones full of chemicals. So that is a narrative and research that we'll be conducting next year. We're also looking to do some refurbishments, launch some new products, take on some new challenges. We're also been having quite a few meetings this week, which should shape a major big announcements next year. So we'll keep that under wraps, but there's a lot happening next year. I'm very, very excited for 2024.
Okay. So big things 2024. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. So a good thing for the listeners listening today, those listeners who are working on creating a legacy for their families or are in a position that you are in, continuing a family legacy. With your experience over the past decade being involved with IUVO in different ways, what's one thing you wish you learned early on your journey about continuing a legacy?
One thing, I don't think I can put it into one thing, but I'll summarize. Summarize it. Make sure whatever you're doing works for you, because for myself, I know that I can always put architecture to one side. I know that I don't necessarily want to work for somebody. So working in the business means that I can grow my skills as running a business, while at some point I can go back to my architecture career and open my own practice, for example. So that's how it's going to benefit me as well, if that's what I choose to do. So when looking into that, if you're at that stage now, have some savings. Make sure you've got a plan. There is always a way to make a business work, and continuing on a legacy, or building your own legacy, building your own generational wealth. And I think especially now, a lot of females, we have kids, we have families, and we think, oh no, we'll put that off. We don't need to do that. Do it now, because you can, and you know, it's the time. We can all inspire ourselves. There are a number of businesses that I know that juggle so many different things and run a successful business. So I would say, have a little plan for financially how you're going to make it all work, and then assess how it's going to benefit you and others around you, your kids, etc. And just run with it. There are so many communities that will support you through that journey as well.
That's absolutely amazing. And that's something that resonates with me about being in a place where you have financial peace. It doesn't mean that you're rich or that you're super, super wealthy, but you have peace around your finances so that you can take those risks. You can take the risk to start a business or whatever you're trying to achieve in life. But having that financial peace will allow you to make decisions confidently, because you know your bills will be paid, you have food to eat, and your lights will be on. So thank you so much for inspiring not just me, but just inspiring the whole world who is listening to this today. So thank you so much for your kindness, your you know, the grace you've shown, the vulnerability, everything. It's just been a very beautiful conversation. So where can we find you, and how can we connect with the brand?
We're online. We have our own website, www.iuvoskincare.com. Everything you need to know is on there. Our events, where our stockists are. We're on Instagram at IUVO Skincare. But feel free to connect if you have any questions about business, legacy, anything. I'm always open to discuss. I love a voice note, so feel free to get in touch.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you for the listeners listening to this amazing episode with Shani about continuing a legacy. And hopefully you will all find a way to continue or build a legacy in your life. So thank you very much for your time, and see you at the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
At the end of each episode, I address the Queendom. I really enjoyed speaking to Shani from IUVO. Something that stayed with me and will stay with me forever is that no matter what goal I have, no matter what legacy I'm trying to build, to make sure that my life circumstances, and my life goals are aligned with that legacy. To ensure that my principles and values are founded upon within that legacy. And ultimately, to have financial peace so that I can make these decisions and take risks. So hopefully you enjoyed the episode as much as I enjoyed interviewing. And I look forward to many more conversations. So stay tuned to every episode of Fairy Queen Talks.